hours in 5 days. Thanks so much for joining us all today. It's been fantastic to see all your contributions in the chat box. So why don't we start this session by putting in where you're from and just let us know whether this is your first day or whether you've been with us for the whole journey through. Just to let you know that a certificate will come out to you immediately following this webinar. So it will come through in an email. And then you'll also get tomorrow an email from us, which will include the presentation from today and a link to watch again. If you haven't received a certificate for any of the events, please email me, and that's amanda.naylor@macmillaneducation.com, and I will put that in the chat so you can follow it, or international.curriculum@macmillaneducation.com. And just email me. Don't put it in the chat box because there's nothing I can do if you put it in the chat box. Just email me and we'll make sure that they come out to you. And my apologies if they haven't arrived, but you will get one automatically today. So it's absolutely fantastic to have Gill and Charlotte back together, our perfect team, who are going to take you through how you use the resources for Snappy Sounds to full effect. And if they're anything like the other webinars, then they're going to be really good. So we'll just wait just for the hour, and then we'll get going. Names I recognise coming back in. Thanks so much, everyone, for staying with us. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
So much fun seeing where everybody is.
Yeah. Don't forget to use the chat box to ask questions for Gill and Charlotte, and they'll do their very best to answer us as we go through.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're on the hour. So thank you, Gill and Charlotte. Thanks for your expertise in all of these webinars that you've done today. And over to you both. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda, for lovely introductions again. Okay, everybody. So what are we here to talk to you about today? The resources. The resources. So as you can see, I've seen many of you are on day 4. If you missed any of the sessions before, these are all recorded. So if you were registered but unable to attend, you'll be able to see the recordings. But today we're here to talk about using resources to full effect in the classroom, or in a blended way. Just because, we've all been blending. And if any of you are like me, as a teacher, I love to see a new course book with tons and tons of resources. But then I get a few weeks in and I realize that actually there's so much I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do with all of them, how they all fit together. And it can be really, really challenging. So that's our mission for today. We're going to start by talking about where to start. We're then going to be looking at all of the foundation, kindergarten, and year 1 resources at a glance, the online toolkit, the posters, the teaching cards, and all sorts of other lovely things to talk about how we can get the most out of them, how they fit into our lesson sequences. So I'm going to hand you over to Gill, who's going to get you going, and I'll see you all in a little bit.
Thank you very much, Charlotte, and welcome everybody once again. It's fantastic to see your names. As Amanda said, some of the names are looking very familiar because you've been with us all week, so it's really nice to see you. Let's move on to our next slide. I'm going to start by actually repeating some of my slides from yesterday, because remember what I was saying about how important it is, just like we do with the children. We teach something and then we consolidate it and we revisit it and we revise it. So I thought it would be sensible before we dive into the resources to actually remind ourselves about what we talked about yesterday, where to start. So remember, we were talking about these things. It's a good idea to nominate a Snappy Sounds expert or a leader or a champion of reading. Not just reading, actually, but of systematic synthetic phonics in the school. If you're working with colleagues, explore and revisit some of those resources together so that you can share ideas about what you like and how you want to use things. And if you're having any challenges, use those professional development videos. We'll be showing, we won't be showing you any more of those today, but we'll definitely be reminding you that they're there in the program and they're free. They come with the program. You don't have to pay extra for them. The same with the speech pathologist videos, you know, the whole thing about speaking with clarity so you make those sounds as pure as possible for the children to copy. Very important in systematic synthetic phonics. And checking a scope and a Snappy Sounds lesson plan. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to walk you through an actual lesson to show you how you can pull on all the different resources as you go through your lesson. The other thing we talked about yesterday was the importance of the sequence. So whilst you can change the pace to suit your own requirements, the sequence of the letters and the sounds is really important to adhere to. And it follows through into the decodable reading books. That's why it's so important. It doesn't expect the children to read anything that we've not already prepared them to read. And that's why we talk about the grapheme phoneme correspondences. How quickly will we introduce those? What adaptations will we need to make? And are we going to take some of the teaching through to year 2 or grade 2? Or are we happy to fit it all into kindergarten and grade 1? And we also played a little bit with some of these techniques and terms. And we talked about the importance of being consistent with those so that children, as they go through the school, or certainly through those early grades, will know that these blend with me or everybody or 1, 2, 3 eyes on me are the sorts of phrases that we love to use in Snappy Sounds. I'm not going to spend any time on these because these are the charts we're going to unpick today, but this is something I showed you yesterday to show you how the materials fit 3 levels for foundation and kindergarten, as opposed to 4. Some of you were 4 terms in the year and some of you were 3. Mostly, I think you were 3. Here are the year 1 resources. Remember, levels 4, 5 and 6. Can any of you remember how many levels there are in Snappy Sounds? Can you pop that in the box so I know that you're with me? Great. Yeah, on the ball as ever. Fantastic. 8 levels. So we talked about, what about levels 7 and 8 if we're working in a 3-term year? Well, we talked about those being used to challenge quick learners, fast learners, children who are actually grasping it really quickly and or taking it through to year 2 or grade 2. So we've done a real spin through there, and I'm going to now pass back over to Charlotte to tackle some new content. See you in a moment.
Yes, thanks, Jill. Okay, so we're going to start by talking about the gold mine. When you're teaching a new series and when you're working with a new series, for me, certainly, the first thing I always reach for are the teacher's resource books. Now, I've got a few little pictures on screen, but I've also got one of these in my hands. Let's see if I can get a clear picture. There we go. My desk is badly positioned opposite my window, so it just gets the light and shines. The teacher's resource books are full of all of the information that you need to teach Snappy Sounds. It's all in here. They provide an amazing support tool. So right up the beginning of the book, you've got all of the information that you need to, learn a little bit about the course. So we've got nice introductions here from the course writers and the course advisors. And then, of course, we've got all of the basic information that me and Jill have been talking about all week. So if you need to remember something we said or go back to it, you'll find all of the notes that you need right there. It also gives you the guidance of what we're going to be telling you today. So how to work with all of the materials. So don't worry if we overload you a bit today. You've got all of that information right there. You'll also find all sorts of information for planning and implementation support. at the back of the book, you've got your activity sheets, so different games and things that you can find in there, and worksheets and photocopyables to help you and keep you going. And you've also got the guidance for your phonics background information, so how to say the sounds, we remember you will have already seen the images of the how to shape your sounds, and we remember all of the nice things that we can do about the place in the mouth and the vibrations that we were talking about the other day. All of that guidance is in there, plus your step-by-step lesson plans. Of course, the other background information that we all need can be found in the online resources. Now, the Snappy Sounds online toolkit is a great go-to place for pre-lesson prep. It's got all of the links that you need for the videos. It's got all of the resources that you need for the lesson, and all of the content in there is organized around the teaching cards. So whichever lesson, whichever grapheme and phoneme you are teaching in the day, you can find all of that just by searching for the teaching card that you're doing. And you've got the links to all of your audio, your video, your demonstrations from the speech pathologists, and also your links to the PDF versions of the teaching cards, your PDF versions of worksheets, etc., etc. That's all there. As we mentioned, that professional development content can all be found through your online portal. And as Gill said, you've got videos demonstrating in the classroom, you've got videos talking about the theory, so your professional development content, and you've also got your pronunciation videos as well. All of that is in there. Of course, also for the teachers, you've got your posters alongside that. So as you can see here, we've got lesson sequence posters, and we've got sounds and letters posters, and we've got our high frequency word posters. So which of these do you think are useful for the students, and why? Which ones would you put on your classroom walls? In the chat box, please. Okay, so which of these? The sounds and letters posters? Absolutely, thank you. Sounds and letters posters, of course, they make a great reference point in the classroom, so you can draw children's attention to them. They can use them as a place for that. We've also got the tricky high frequency words, which are a great point of reference. But as few of you are saying, all of them can be beneficial. So having those lesson sequence posters on the walls of your classroom can really help you to manage the lesson structure and manage your classroom management as well. Hi, Gill. You're back again. You're going to talk to us a little bit more about the teaching cards.
I am. Oh gosh, I can see some funny lines on this slide, so apologies for that. It's obviously where I've cut and pasted. We've mentioned the teaching cards before and how very, very useful they are. Here's one. The one on the screen is CK, and the picture, you notice you always get a picture. What's the picture on the teaching card on the screen to represent the end sound in a word? Yeah, it's a picture of a lock. And that, of course, that phoneme is here represented by two letters, even though it represents one sound. And yes, some of you are also going on to the next question, where you can see this represents the sound E as in B. I think that's a level 3 card. So I'm going to just show you some of the examples of these from about level 5 to show you how the progression of teaching the letters and sounds works out. So we've already talked about the grapheme on here. We've talked about the picture image. Charlotte, I think way back, maybe in our first session, talked about the fact that you get the condensed steps for the lesson on the back of the card, which you can see on the screen and also here on my B card. So you get the condensed steps. So it's super because you can be showing the children and actually reading if you need to just remind yourself where you are in the lesson. There's some help about how to say the sound, and I think we talked about this in a previous session, that down this side panel there are pre-prepared decodable word lists that you can use with the children. So these are fantastic for extra practice. They're fantastic for making sure children are keeping up or catching up. You also get some little extension words, a little bit more challenging. So whereas up here you may be doing B, here you may be doing teeth. So a little bit more challenging. And then you've also got some very nice captions. We're going to talk about dictation later. There are some dictation phrases and sentences in the teacher's book, but you also get them on here. So you might say to the children, bees sat on my feet. And that might be something the children can read, or it might be something you want them to write, depending on how capable they are and how quickly they're learning. And then you've got some extension. I keep feeling sad this week. So there's some a really lovely range of differentiation on those panels. Right, let's have a look how the sound E starts to develop. So we started with E as in B, and by level 5, you can see that we're looking at this grapheme combination, EA. So E as in beach, but with different letters. This is a fundamental principle of systematic synthetic phonics. Some people are putting C, teaches, another nice example, beach. And you can see again down that panel on the right-hand side, on the reverse of the card, that you get again those words for extension, revision, captions, and extension again of little words and phrases. You also, of course, get a book that you can use. And in this instance, it's beans. So that's another word that you can use. And we're going to walk through some of these books a little bit later, look inside some of them. But I just wanted to point out that often, always, there's a book that matches the sound or matches a couple of sounds. So that's that really nice example for EA. What happens next? Where do we go next with this sound? Well, also in level 5, we show the children that we can have a Y, the grapheme Y at the end of a word, as in a word like jelly, as in that picture there. We also show them, yes, jelly belly. We can also have a book here with spooky and party. Spooky sparty, I can't say it, spooky sporty party. I think the children might have fun pronouncing those as well. So you can see again that there's a lovely book that links these opportunities in to show the children the different graphemes representing the same sound. What's the second card on that top line? What representation is that? Can you think? Yes, fantastic. Me. So it's just the letter, the grapheme E, but representing the E sound, just as in B or jelly. And what's the final one? It does say actually, but I'm not sure if it's clear enough. Yes, fantastic. Thank you, Sahira, and a few others. Athlete, athlete. So that E, consonant E ending on a word is the split digraph for E. So you can see we move the children on quite quickly. And I showed you this book, the title of which picks up on Y at the end of the word. But when I open the inside, you can see, I hope, here, that it's actually picking up on all the different grapheme representations of the sound E. So there's some really nice practice words before you get reading, so that it reminds the children of the different representations of the E sound. Now that's just the E example. I just picked that up to show you how we do the simple, and then we build on it quite quickly. Right, I think that's me. Back to Charlotte for a moment.
How did you know? Right, so ooh, my microphone moved up on my head. Silly me. Okay, so how do we go about teaching and using all of these materials across the lesson plan? Let's start at the beginning of a lesson sequence. And at the beginning of the lesson sequence, we do what? Do we remember? What's the first thing we're going to do in a lesson? We're going to, in the chat box, let's have a look. Hey, objectives, absolutely. Our lesson objectives and our reviews, indeed. So, when we start our lesson, we're going to start with a bit of revision. What have we already done? Now, as we have reiterated today, at the bottom of your teaching cards, you've got your sequence printed there on the card. So as a teacher, you know that you are able to quickly find out what it is that we covered in the last couple of lessons. What do we need to bring up? And at the top of your teaching card, you've got, oop, if I can get that clear, there we are, a little revision guidance up there as well. So it recommends having to hand teaching cards for the previous activities, and of course, getting a nice list of the snappy words that you've covered while you were teaching those. These pre-used flashcards can be used for any of our favorite teaching cards, or any of our favorite flashcard games. So for me, I love to do a flashcard race. People in the chat box do keep asking where we can get the materials from. We will be reminding you of this at the end, and we have said it all through the week. But what you need to do is get in touch with your local Macmillan representatives. So wherever you are in the world, just have a chat with them and go, hey, we were in a webinar and there's this amazing series called Snappy Sound. Can I have some samples? Can I have a look? And I'm sure that they will help you. So yeah, just grab your nearest Macmillan person. And if you are not sure who to speak to, you can contact the International Curriculum head. So yeah, in the chat box, let's see who's got a favorite flashcard game. I like to do flashcard races with mine, so I might get 5 or 6 of the sounds that we've covered. And what I would do as a teacher is, shout out a word with an example sound, ask the children to go grab the card that contains the sound I'm looking for. So that's one thing you can do. Another good thing, especially with sort of the kindergarten age students, is to do jump on games. So I like to place all of the flashcards around on the floor of the classroom and get the children up and give them a sound and get them to run over. Oh, Samina, a hoop game. I don't know the hoop game. Can you give us an explanation in the chat box? Fly swats, absolutely. Any of our favorite teaching flashcard games can be used with these flashcards, and that's a great way to warm up, get the energy going, and use those. We can, of course, also use our placemats for reference. So some things that we can do, if we're using the grapheme only side of the placemat, we might ask them to point to the sound that the teacher says and then try and remember what is the picture from the other side that represents the sound. Likewise, we can use the picture side to get those as well. Oh, Zara, thank you. I wish I could be your teacher sometimes too. I am today. Yeah, it's fine. Lots of fun things we can do. We've also got the decodable word cards as well. So there's lots of fun games you can do. And there are also blank cards available for that. So you can make your own word cards. So if you want to play matching games like Pelmanisms, you'll notice on the screen that the back of the card is color coded to the different levels of Snappy Sounds. So when you're looking in the stack of cards is literally this big. I'm not joking. It's a lot of cards. So having them color coded means that you can organize them by sections. You always know what you're looking for and you don't have to go through the whole deck, which I've had to do before when I've dropped them. And it's not fun. Color sorting is a very good idea. And we will be looking at more games and activities for using with those tomorrow as well. Because remember, tomorrow's session is all about putting your teaching into practice. Moving on then to the next stage of the lesson. Once we've set our lesson objectives, once we've done our little review and our revision, we move on to hear it, see it, say it. So on the screen, you can see the instructions from the back of one of our teaching cards. And here's our teaching card for beach again. So we say, point to the picture on the card. What is this? It's a beach. Brilliant. Okay, so let's hear the sound in the middle. And you might want to really exaggerate that, get them to play those games. You can also use your sounds and letters poster, and you can use your points, your lovely placemats as well. So getting to do, again, pointing activities, recognition activities. So point to the grapheme that matches the sound. How many can we find? And we said with E, we've got several. So we might be introducing the Y, we might be introducing the double E, and we're trying to find the grapheme EA. So we can get them to find that on the sounds and letters posters, find that on the flashcards as well as that. Okay, now moving then forwards, we might also want to use some of our pronunciation videos at this point in time. If, for example, you're new to phonics, maybe you're not confident that you can make the pure sound. Maybe you just want them to hear a different accent as well. So you can use those videos in the classroom. You can pop them on your whiteboard and get them to practice saying the sounds. We can also do noticing activities at this stage. So watch the video without sound. What is the shape of her lips when she says E? And we can show it's a long sound, so it's E. We can practice doing it, and we say that together. When we move on to the next stage, we are, of course, writing it. Now, writing, obviously, when we're working with very, very young learners, kindergarten age, year one, we're also still learning our fine motor skills. So this writing practice is really, really beneficial as well. Lots of ways that we can practice with the writing. You notice on the screen there's a lovely image of some magnetic letters. So if you can get hold of some of those, and you've got a nice magnetic bit on your on your whiteboard, you can stick those letters up. We can manipulate them. Samina mentioned writing in sand. Absolutely, one of my favorite things to do. Little trays of sand that you can practice your penmanship in with your finger or with your pen or your pencil. The other thing that we can do for that works quite well is shaving foam. It's quite nice if you can get a bottle of shaving foam to write in. Kids love the tactile play. Yeah, Renu has suggested salt Play-Doh's another great idea. Making the shape of the letters out of Play-Doh or plasticine is a nice way of doing that. So practicing those letter shapes, and of course, air writing. Yay! Which you'll notice that I do all the time when I'm talking to you. I'm just writing things in the air. So lots and lots of different ways that you can do that. You can also use scarves, which can be a really nice exaggerated version. Or if you have a school uniform, take the ties off and write the letters using your tie is quite fun. Right on the table with your finger. Fantastic. So lots and lots of writing practice. Writing and forming those shapes. And remember, especially if you are teaching in a country where children are new to the Roman alphabet. So, for example, if your native alphabet is Cyrillic, or if it's an Arabic alphabet, this is going to be really, really important practice for the children as well as they learn to create and write the Roman alphabet as well. Ooh, right. Where are we? Why has my thing gone wrong? Where's my flashy thing gone? Okay, there we go. So, when it comes to the read it page, A Farsi alphabet as well. There are several that are different to Roman, and I can never remember all of them. So write some words on the board using those word lists on your teaching card. So remember, up the back, we're going to get up here, we've got our example words. So you've got that point of reference and you can put your words on the whiteboard. So for the h sound, for example, h as in hat, had, him, hat, hot, hit, hut, hop, and hid are our key words. So we can write those example words up on the board and we can model the sounding out as we're reading. So we're going to read it not as the full word, but as those segmented sounds. T, or b, e, ch, beach. We can practice sounding those words out, making those correct, pure sounds as we're doing it. And then we practice blending the word together. So it can be quite nice in the classroom to do this visually. One way I like to do it is to get the children to represent the different sounds. So if I'm teaching the word beach, I will have a student that represents b, a student that represents e, and a student that represents ch. And then I can get them to start standing closer together. So we go b, e, ch, b, each, beach, beach. And yeah, you absolutely can use actions as well. And we talked about this a little bit the other day. Lots and lots of different things that we can do. But if you want to work with actions with your kids, it's always nice. You can get them even involved in creating those actions as well. Of course, other practice activities that we can talk about for reading. We've got the flashcards. We can read those words. And again, you can play Pelmanisms, matching the word to the picture. Read the word out, match it to the correct picture. Flashcard hunts, bingo games, always good fun. We'll talk a little bit more about those tomorrow. Remember also that you've got additional unseen texts in the assessment file that can be used for reading. And then, of course, at the end, we've got our spell it section. So when we're spelling, we're going to practice and we're going to start by saying the word, saying the sounds, identifying the number of sounds in the word, and then writing the graphemes for each of those phonemes. One way that you can do this is through letter boxes. So, for example, in the word beach, we've got how many sounds in beach? See if we're paying attention. 3, brilliant. So you might have 3 boxes next to each other and you might get them to spell the words out into their different sounds. So B in the first box, EA in the second box, CH at the end. Breaking those words down. We can also get them to use all sorts of fun spelling worksheets from the teacher's book as well. And you'll notice in the lesson guides that they reference which worksheets are best with which type of activity, which is lovely. And of course, as Jill's mentioned, dictation sentences. So we've got all sorts of different examples here. So if you'll notice on the screen, in week 1, we're starting our alternative spellings of E. So we have met E-double-E, we've met E-A. Today we're meeting E as in me, the single E. And we can start practicing those. So in the first dictation, we've got individual dictation words and we've got sentences from dictation. You'll notice as this develops down the screen, you've got those different options for the E sound. So they're starting to have to distinguish and think a little bit more, where in the word is the sound occurring? Well, if it's an E at the end of the word, then it's probably going to be the Y. When can you make dictation for children? So spell it section of the lesson where we're practicing our spelling is the perfect time for doing dictations. But individual word dictations, like a spelling test, for example, is an individual word dictation, nice and easy, or longer dictations. And we'll look at one or two ideas for dictation tomorrow as well. But yeah, at what age? Right from the beginning. So thank you, Jill. So yeah, from week 1 of phonics, from lesson 1, you're going to be practicing a little bit of spelling by the end of the week as well. And at what age? Well, I mean, that will vary from country to country, but as soon as you start learning the language, within the first few weeks of the course, you should be starting to write the language and spell the language out as well. And then, of course, we end with the review. And I'm conscious that I'm eating into a bit of Jill's time here. So, lesson sequence review. We might want to use questions for exit tickets. I don't know if you guys use exit tickets, but ask a question before you say goodbye, get the answer, and then say goodbye. So we might say, what phoneme did we learn today? What sound did we learn today? We'll go through that. We can challenge them to write the letters. So you might want to get them up to write the letter on the whiteboard, or use your air writing, use your miniature whiteboards, whatever you have in your classroom. And then we can remind them that we've learnt to read and write some words. So in this, for example, we've got the sound and the phoneme IR, like in bird. And we might ask them to think of some other examples of words where that would be. Okay, now, of course, the most important tool for review are the books. So I'm going to hand over to Jill.
Lovely, and welcome back all. That was a fantastic session. A few slides there, Charlotte. I really enjoyed listening to those practical activities. Handwriting is a particular interest of mine, and developing those gross motor skills and those fine motor skills is really, really critical. And why not try and tie it in with systematic synthetic phonics? And Mohammed says pencil grip is a challenge for the children. It is indeed. And that's why we need to make sure that they're ready, that they can do the various fine motor skills as well as those big movements as well. Anyway, I'm not talking about that. I need to move on and talk about independent practice of reading. So all that Charlotte has outlined are really the direct instructions of the lesson. But obviously when we've done that, we then need to move into the part of the lesson where it's you do, over to the children. We can do it together. I can do it. We can do it together. And then the children really need to have a go at practice and apply. And that's where the books, which I know we keep mentioning, but they are such a lovely part of the resource and so engaging. So the ones I've picked up here are levels 5 to 8. And I really want to show you some of those and how they progress, just like I did with the sound E, how we started with the simple E for B. And then we actually developed that quite quickly. And you can start with the reading books. I think someone was just asking, you can start with the reading books from the end of week 1. As soon as you've taught those initial letter sounds, S-A-T, P, I-N-M-D, we can start, as soon as we can make words, we're making simple books. And I have one, here's a good example, just happened to be by me. Kim and Kat get fit. So we don't need many letters to start making words and some very sweet little stories. But today I wanted to show you really some of the more sophisticated stories to impress upon you that actually these aren't just all about Kit and Kat get fit, that actually we can have some really, really juicy stories and exciting adventures and non-fiction. So I think that's what I wanted to say there. It's important that the books are controlled but engaging. It's important that we have a lot. So remember, we have 10 books per level, with that last book in each level being a sort of summary of all the letters and sounds you've met in that level. And then you can use that as an assessment text if you want to. And of course, these books are to practice your decoding. Yes, someone's asked if I will open the book. I'm going to show you some of the inside books now. So if you particularly want to do Kit and Cat, I can read you that at the end if we've got time, if that's the one that you really fancied. But yeah, let's have a look at some of the features. So the one I've chosen here is The King and the Ring. Now, I actually don't have a copy of this book here, but I chose it because it's a particularly lovely cover, I thought. And it shows the front cover. And you can see from the grey call outs on this slide that you can see how much information there is on the back of the books as well. Front, back. And this one, The King and the Ring, any guess? Well, it does say actually what is the focus letters and sounds of this story. But if you weren't looking, yes, fantastic. You're all there with me as usual. So it is obviously as in king and ring, but it's also as in the king and the ring. And is of course decodable at this point. And. So The King and the Ring. You can see that you also get the level. If you look at the cover of the back there at the top right, you can see it says level 2. So that tells you as a teacher, it's a bit like Charlotte was saying about the organising of the flashcards. They're colour coded. So important to help you keep the materials neat and organised and in their levels. You can see there's a little book blurb. At this level, level 2, it's very simple. Get the ring. But at least it's a nod towards that expectation that we have a book blurb on the back. It introduces the new sounds and letters. We've touched on that already. And it also places the book. It gives a list of all the books in level 2, so you know where you are in the sequence. So lots of valuable information on the back cover. When you open the book and look inside, what will you see? Well, you can see here again, I thought it would be clearer to put it on here for you. Focus sounds and high frequency words are listed. So this is the inside front cover. This one is an earlier level. It's reading time. It gives you some ideas of what to do before you start reading, during the reading, and after the reading. And it actually gives you some very simple guided reading notes if that's how you want to use the books. On the other page, you can see on this right-hand side, which is at the back of the book. So the left is the inside front cover, and on the right, even though they're together, is the inside back cover. And that also gives you so much information just all within the book, not necessarily to share with the child, but for you as the teacher. So it tells you the text type and the word count. It gives you an approximate reading level, and it gives you spelling tips, because obviously you can read the book and then you can always use some of the words in the book to practice some spelling. Remember at the very beginning on Sunday, we talked about reading and spelling, blending to read and encoding to spell being two sides of the same coin. And that's what we're always trying to do, exploit the opportunity from reading into writing. Okay, moving on. Now we're on the first page inside the book. If I go back to Kit and Cat, because I think Mohammed really liked Kit and Cat, you always get a page. This is a very simple one, remember, fast phonics. So that equates to the left-hand side of that screen. And you can see the second page gives you some snappy words. So again, there's a nice example here of a very early book, and then this level 2 book that we're looking at on screen. So we need to pre-teach some words, make sure the children are confident and fluent so that when they pick up the book to read it independently, they feel prepared. Also, that's practicing tricky high frequency words. You can see the call outs on the screen on the left, and any new words will be in bold. So again, you can make sure that none of these words trip the children up. We want to make it as easy as possible for them to really get confident about reading these stories so they can enjoy them, because they are lovely stories. We can practice saying the sounds. It's a shame we can't do this together, because we would if we were in face to face, but we can say and k, sh, ch, as in pa, ch, qua, wa. So we can do a quick practice, and we could do that in a small group, we could do that as a whole class, or we could be doing that one-to-one. And the children can take these books home, remember, and practice them with their parents, which is even better for more practice. And then on that right-hand side, you get the snappy words. Every book has this format, so you know exactly where you are, and so do the children, and they love it. They love knowing what's coming up. So they can practice these snappy words before they start reading the story. And you can also do a quick vocabulary check, because as the stories get more interesting, we're coming on to this one in a moment, Mike's Bike, we need to make sure that children have the vocabulary understanding as well, because we don't want them to trip up on just not understanding what a word is. Particularly if they're multilingual or bilingual, they may not have come across a particular word. So we're very keen on meaning. Of course, we always want children to understand what they're reading. Okay, so what does a decodable text look like? I think most of you, from what you've been saying to me throughout the week, understand what we're talking about by a decodable text. But I just thought I'd put up this example. This book, any ideas what this focus sound in this text is? Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Everyone, straight on it. It's I. So it's three letters, one sound, I. That's a lovely one. The dog had a big fright in the night. Is that a hump? Said the dog. You might be right. It is so high, said the frog. We need a big, bright light, said the cat. So although it's overladen with words featuring the phonic focus I, you can sense we're getting a bit of drama going on here. Well, I think so. So this is fully decodable. We will have some tricky high frequency words. Can you see a tricky high frequency word in that text on page 8? Anyone in the chat box? A tricky high frequency word. Yeah, you is a tricky high frequency word, but so is said at this level. Yeah, well done. Lots of people picking that up now. Yes, said is a high frequency tricky word. And the other thing on the call out on page 9, engaging illustrations. I don't know if you agree, but they're really bright, lovely colors, funny little characters that children would really enjoy. And obviously we max out on being able to repeat those, the target phonic focus, but we're also trying to build in some of the other things. So a word like that, I'm guessing at this level, I don't know because I haven't got the scope and sequence in front of me, is probably decodable. At that. It's probably a previous sound to practice. Yeah, eye-catching. I think they're eye-catching. Let's look at some more books. Oh, sorry, just before we look at more books, I forgot I've got one more page here. At the back, we have some comprehension. Now, this comes back to Charlotte's first mention of the simple view of reading on Sunday. Do you remember where we looked at those two axes on a graph, where one was about decoding and one was about comprehension? And of course, we don't want to ignore the children's understanding of the text. Yeah, Charlotte's just put it in capitals. The simple view of reading, she's shouting. It's really, really important that children enjoy what they're reading. They're not just decoding and have no idea. We want to engage them in the story. So at the back, you get the opportunity to talk about the story together, and you get some more snappy words to practice, to get really fluent and focus. I think I need to go on. Right, here's some examples of some of the books at the higher levels. So this is Mike's Bike. This is a lovely one, and I've taken some pictures there from the inside. Which one will be my bike? Asks Mike. It has 9 gears to try. So no words here will be too challenging for the children. We will have taught them all. Doesn't mean they'll remember, does it? That's why we have to keep revisiting the teaching and revisiting the books. But you can get the idea of there's quite a lot more text on the page. Yes, thank you. Sarah has predicted my question, which is, what is the phonic focus of this book? And if we open it up, you won't be surprised to hear that it's the split digraph, i.e. So we've got Mike's bike, but of course I can see that you've already picked that up. It is a long I sound, but it is a split digraph. But notice how much more text there is on the page. Really, really quite encouraging. You'd feel quite grown up if you were reading this at this level. So what does it look like at level 6? Well, I chose this one, Sue's Shoot. What do you think the phonic focus is? I don't have this actual book in front of me, but what do you think? Yes, it's long oo. It's the long vowel phoneme oo sound, as represented by UE in the name Sue and in shoot by the double O. And if you look in the text, it says, I am Sue Brew. So we're also looking at the grapheme representation EW for this sound as well. I flew to a wildlife rescue park for a newspaper shoot. But you can see these are authentic non-fiction texts. So Sue has her camera, her zoom, her bag, nice non-fiction features there where things are labeled beautifully. And then this is Drew, the rescue vet. So these really are quite engaging texts, and they're not patronizing to children, or they're not just nonsense words. They really are authentic. What about at level 7? We're going ever higher towards our level 8. Prince Cedric's Dance Party. Can you see top right? I've given you there a picture of the inside front cover. What's new at this level, level 7? What's new there? Not particularly related to phonics. Yes, sorry, you can see the phonic focus, you're correcting me, is Cedric's, it's the soft C sound, Prince Cedric's Dance Party. And yes, in answer to my other question, we've got some chapters. So in this way, books at level 7 are authentic because we have chapters. So this tells us the books are getting longer. Let's move on, because I'm probably encroaching into Charlotte's time now. Here we are at the level 8. We have finally come to level 8. And I chose another non-fiction book. And again, I showed you the inside front cover to focus on our snappy words. And it's got lots of lovely things to practice, as you would imagine. We've covered so many grapheme phoneme correspondences by now. We've got all sorts of lovely opportunities to practice, and you can see that this book actually helps you to know, if you're interested, how to make a snake candle holder you might like to try, or what. And it gives you again authentic text, because it tells you what you need and then what you do, so your equipment and then your methodology. So I just wanted to whiz through a few of those. I have taken quite a long time, sorry Charlotte, but I think it's really important that you know that these are beautifully illustrated. Sometimes they're photographic, sometimes the fiction books have chapters, but they really are picking up on some of the non-fiction text features that we would expect in any early reading books. Now, I feel like I can't do a session without putting this slide up, just to reiterate how many books we have. But I'm going to stop there and hand back to Charlotte for the next session.
Dearie me, my microphone taking a minute there. Okay, so I want to end my little section here by talking a little bit about assessment. So we've had a look through how we can use all of those materials and what stages of the lesson that they come out in. I think it's important that we just slightly address the assessment side of things. Now, phonics assessment is necessary in the UK, certainly. It's part of the curriculum. Teachers are expected to assess. In your context, that might be different. You might find that you don't need to assess your students, and that's absolutely fine. But of course, many of you will also want to. So, what are we actually trying to assess in a phonics assessment? Well, um, the objectives here, as you can see, are all based around that encoding and decoding. So we are looking at fluent recognition of the phoneme grapheme correspondences learnt that we've learnt at that level. We're looking to see that the children can read decodable words correctly and that they are decoding them, that they're sounding out and blending. The way that this is done in first language classrooms is usually through non-words, made up words that show it's not a real word. They cannot pre-learn them because they're not true. In an international context, this is something you might choose to avoid, especially if you've got students in your classrooms who are learning English as a second language. We don't necessarily need to confuse them too much. But of course, we also need to check that they can correctly read an unseen text. So we've mentioned the unseen texts before. But this is where they often come in. So when we look at an assessment task, and remember there are A and B assessments, so you can use the B assessments for revision or catch up or retesting. If you're working with a large group of students, you can use them in groups or split them out between the two. And what you'll notice is that we've got our little sound chart here. So you say the sound and get them to point to the relevant square on there. We've also got some words. So again, you might choose one or two at random to get them to read out. There's your non-words there. And just remember, if you don't want to use them, just ignore them. That stage can easily be cut out. And then, of course, on the back, we've got some sentences to practice reading. So we're looking for that fluency. We're looking for that to happen. We can see that there on the slide. We then also have our student tracking sheets. Now, these are available in PDF version in the online content, but while you're sitting there doing your assessment, and remember, a phonics assessment is done one-to-one. So again, this is something that your teaching assistants, if you have them, will be hugely beneficial for. We work with those students one-to-one, and those tracking sheets, they are photocopyable. There's also downloadable versions as well, but they give you space to keep a track of that progress as they go through the different levels as well. So you'd have one of those for each student, and then you've got that permanent record of the development that you can share with everyone at home and also your managers, of course. So the traditional end again. It's going to be weird tomorrow. I've taken the quiz out.
Oh,
All right. So can we name 3 important things? Do you remember from yesterday? There you go on the screen. Someone's asking to see it. Whoop, there we are. And they're nice A4 plastic. 3 things for getting started using the program. What do we need to do? Review, well, in a lesson, review, absolutely. But before we even start teaching phonics, anything that you can remember about Jill's session yesterday? Consistency, absolutely. There's a great one. Choosing your phonics leader, indeed, and checking that we are ready to learn and we're doing things. All right. 3 things we can find digitally. Online, what can we find? Videos, absolutely. Copies of the student trackers, indeed. Copies of decodable texts, revision and recaps, worksheets, absolutely. All of that. Download, download, download. Which posters are you definitely putting on the wall of your classroom? And we've established that we could put all of them, but which posters are you definitely putting up there? Sounds and letters, absolutely. And yeah, the tricky high frequency word poster. Yes, absolutely. Brilliant phonics charts indeed. Good, good. All right, teaching cards. How can we use them as a teaching tool, but also personal support? Really, it's like a crutch. I wish all flashcards did that. Remember the backside, absolutely. Every single piece of info you need on the back of that card. And which Snappy Sounds resources could you use for review and teaching of learner objectives? Flashcard games, for sure. Any other ideas? Decodable books. Yeah, we could re-look at the stories. We could look at the previous things that we have read, and also our previous flashcards. Indeed. All right, Jill.
Thank you very much. Excellent. How does the lesson sequence vary? Now, this is a tough question because I'm not sure we made that explicit. How does the lesson sequence vary between foundation and kindergarten and year one? What's different? It's a bit of a complicated question, this. Any idea? The colours, yes, there is a little bit. But I think Charlotte's giving you some clues. So again,
Never.
Charlotte, more writing practice in year one. Yes, there are slight differences, as you would expect, because the children are getting better and more confident. So there are a few differences. So look at those lesson sequence posters. That's where you look to see the differences. Where can you find words and captions to support you with spelling and dictation practice? Anyone, where are those words and captions? Where did I show you those? Which resource was I holding? Yes, thank you, Noah, at the back of the cards. What can you find in the front of each decodable reading book? Yep, everyone's coming in now with the back of the cards. Yes, what can you find in front of each decodable reading book? Yeah, some lovely teaching resources. What sort of guidance are they giving you? The blurb is on the back. What about in the front? Yes, keywords. Now we're on it. That's right. Great. We've got a mixture of things going on there, but sounds and letters to practice in words. Excellent. You can start each lesson with introducing the decodable reader. True or false? True or false? Number 9. Oh, we've got some true. You wouldn't generally start with the reader. Remember where Charlotte started. You started the lesson with the review and then making the objective clear for the lesson. Then you do your direct instruction. And then when you want to practice what you've taught, you introduce the decodable reader. So you wouldn't normally begin with introducing the decodable reader right at the beginning. You might give them a flash of the cover to get them excited. Last question. Decoding for reading and encoding for spelling writing are inverse processes. So independent practice for both is equally important. Two sides of the same coin. True or false? Yes. Well done. That's true. They are the same coin. One is reading, one is writing. One is spelling, one is reading. Excellent. I'm sure you've all got 10 out of 10 as usual. And I'm sorry, I think we've actually, for the first time, run over just by 1 minute.
We knew this was going to be a challenge today, so if you do need to go, feel free to run away. But sorry, Amanda.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. The session tomorrow is putting your teaching into practice. So everything that you've learned and how to put it into practice in the classroom. Thanks everyone for joining us again today. It's so brilliant to see so many people. Thank you so much, Charlotte and Gill. That was another fabulous session, so engaging, and I feel it could have gone on for much, much longer.
Oh, yeah.
But reading all those books, I love the fiction and the non-fiction from this series. It's so great. Thank you, everyone. Please join us again tomorrow. You will be getting the link to register if you haven't already. You will be getting a certificate for this one. It should come out to you as soon as I shut down this session. So thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of the day wherever you are in the world.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.